one of the meals I'm going to take on this trip that's coming up is Backcountry Goulash. Now, this is an old recipe. This was one of my early recipes that I created. It's very simple, very easy to do on the trail. It almost always turns out really good if you like goulash. And you can call it whatever you want to call it. I call it goulash. My family calls it goulash. You know, you can call it whatever you can call it macaroni. You can call it whatever you want. But I'm going to call it goulash. So feel free to tell me in the comments what you call it. Anyway, so it's a very simple meal. It's really easy. It's quite filling, and it always tastes good. So I'm going to start off with an empty bag. Oh yeah, before I get going, I'm looking to fill a 1 liter pot, my small pot. That's what I'm looking for as far as a portion size. That full, or 3/4 full. I take nesting pots. I've got a not 3 liters, sorry, 3 cup 1 liter. This is a 7 cup 1 3/4 liter approximately pot. And I have a frying pan. They all nest in together. And most of my meals that I make will use all 3 of those on the trail. So we're going to start off with our base for our goulash is going to be noodles. And I'm very particular with my goulash. And my father-in-law, who actually introduced me to goulash, at least goulash how I know it now, goulash has 3 ingredients, in my opinion. And my wife would argue about this, so I'll tell you this funny little antidote, because we argue about this sometimes at the supper. They put cheese and all kinds of stuff, and it's good. In my opinion, though, it's no longer goulash when you add to the ingredients. So it has 3 ingredients. It has tomatoes or tomato soup, it has pasta, and it has hamburger. So I got my elbow macaroni, which I like taking back and it cooks fast. It doesn't retain water. It packs down small, whereas other stuff doesn't pack as well. Like bigger stuff has more air, it takes more space, like penne, for example. So there's my pasta, which I'll put, and I pack everything kind of in a separate bag. So I'll put my pasta in there. So this Ziploc bag full will be a real big meal. So I got quite a good portion of ground beef here. Dehydrated ground beef. I do all my own dehydrating myself, and it's really not very difficult. You can get budget, inexpensive dehydrators at Walmart, and they work fine. The trays are real cheap on them. I've kind of outgrown those. I have more of a Cadillac now. Corsi, I believe mine is called. It's it's like an oven. The door closes. It's much quicker and more efficient and all that good stuff. So you need tomato soup. So this is 1 can of dehydrated tomato soup. So I just dehydrated on my liquid trays. Grind her up in a food processor. I can't say that today. Food processor of some sort. And put that in there. So that's the sauce, right? And I like to make it just a little bit more tomatoey, so I add dehydrated tomatoes as well. So it's half of a beefsteak tomato, just a big tomato. It's half of one. The other half went to my son Cameron's meal. And that would just add to the tomatoey element of it when I'm putting it together, when I'm rehydrating it, making it on the trail. There we go right there. So that's Backcountry. Wait for it. The suspense is killing you. Oh, I'm having trouble with the zipper on this one. Backcountry goulash. And like I said, it's an old recipe. Back one of my first trips. So I'm nearing roughly my 30th trip, 8-day canoe trip. 8-day actually this year we're going. It's going to be, we got an extra day, which is what this meal is going to be filling on the trip. So there it is, Backcountry goulash. Yeah, old recipe. Tried, tested, and true. See you on the trail. Hey, tonight we're making goulash. So, supposedly the last night of the trip, we've encountered some wind issues here. So, we may be extending our stay. So, goulash is a pretty simple meal to make. You can hear the wind in the background, I'm sure. So I've got some tomatoes that I've dehydrated, which really help make the tomato flavor pop. Some ground beef for the goulash. Add some filtered water to cover and then let it set. We're at camp pretty early. It's roughly 1:30-ish. So that's going to sit and rehydrate for quite a long time. Close to the temperature danger zone probably, if you know anything about that kind of stuff. And then we'll be sick. No, never had an issue before, so There we go. We'll let that sit. I got quite a bit of water in there. We'll let that sit for a while. We'll come back at supper time. All right, so it's been a couple hours here. So there's our rehydrated tomatoes and meat. I'm gonna bring that to a boil. She's pretty windy today, so hopefully the stove will work all right. So we'll bring that to a boil. I've also gone down to the lake. Well, it's actually a river that I'm on here today, the Mersey River. So I've got some river water I'm going to boil to do my pasta. I got sauce in here. So those are the, it's pretty simple meal really, well, that I bring anyway. It doesn't, a lot of people would have very little trouble pulling this off, we'll put it that way. Some things that I do and have done videos for, like meatloaf, for example, sloppy joes, those are quite tricky meals to make out on the trail. But this one's pretty easy and typically turns out really, really good. So I'm gonna bring this. Okay, so I got her boiling there. So I'm gonna switch the pots. Here's my water pot right there. Get water pot in for the pasta. So again, I'm not gonna make you watch while the water boils. I could entertain you with some witty commentary, but I think I'll just keep the video shorter, and I'll pause for station identification and commercials and all that stuff while this boils, when it boils. Okay, my water is boiled. There we are. My lake water's nice rolling boil. My glasses are all steamed up. Dump in my pasta, and I should have lots. Oh, look at the dirt in there. Oh, it's always better. See all that nice dirt? You want to get as much of that as possible in. So I'm just going to bring the... I did get a bunch of dirt in there. Awesome. So you got to watch your pasta, of course, because if you ever cook pasta at home with the lid on, you know that it will boil over and make a mess. So the same rules apply out in the woods. It's starchy and it'll boil up. So one of the things I do when I cook pasta is because the burner on the stove is quite hot, is I kind of keep stirring it every so often because it'll stick to the bottom of the pot, which is not great, not easy to clean up out here. So I'm just gonna let that boil, and if I was an educated cook, I'd be able to tell you how long the pasta should boil until it's al dente. But I usually try to keep it firm without being crunchy, which is, again, tough to do out here in the woods. But it usually comes out pretty good. So I'll be back when the pasta is cooked and ready to go, and we'll do some transferring and we'll work on the sauce. Okay, so my pasta is cooked. Burner struggled with the wind a little bit, so I tested a piece and it's cooked. So like I said, I'm going to transfer everything into the small pot. So there's my, I might bring that to a boil first. I'll bring this back to a boil to get her hot. Just to make sure my meal is piping hot. Alright, boiling again. Turn the burner on. Ooh, smells good. So, and I'm going to dump the whole thing right in there, just like so. So this meal only uses 2 pots, which means 1 less pot to wash. For all you people watching or commenting, I had a couple comments, or 1 comment for sure, that hated doing dishes, and I get that. It's not always the most fun thing to do dishes in the woods. Alright, so here's my tomato soup. So it's a full can of tomato soup. Put that into the pot. I'm going to add water. I'm going to break it up with my spoon. So I'll drain some water off first. And I'm going to have lots of extra water by the looks of it. Remember, you can always add more water, but it is difficult to take the water out. So use the water sparingly. There she's going. You can see that all right, shadowy with the sun coming in. Sun's coming in hard there to the over my shoulder. Here, I'm whacking the camera. Sorry about that, everyone. So the tomato soup is breaking down really good. Should See that or not? Probably not. I can barely see it. I'm standing right in front of it. So I made this before. I made it too thick, and then it tastes more like condensed tomato soup. It still tastes good, but you kind of want to. You don't want it to be like tomato soup, as if you're going to eat tomato soup and grilled cheese. You want it to be a little more on the thick side. If I was going to make goulash at home, I would just open the cans of tomato soup, pour it right in, mix it in with stuff. It's actually coming pretty good. It's kind of hard to see. I'm not sure if you can see that or not in the light. The sun is getting low in the sky. So I'm going to keep doing that. There's no sense you watching me do that, but I'm going to keep using my spoon, kind of mashing the soup to try to get it to break down, to get it as smooth as possible from its ground. I was gonna say powdered. It's not really powdered. It's more ground than it is powdered. I'm going to keep playing with it to try to get the consistency that I want, which is as close as what you get out of a can as possible. So it is breaking down and it's getting thicker, so I'm going to add some more water to it, just to thin that up a little bit. See if my spoon can fall in. That's what I don't like about using the big pot, is that my spoon will fall in and make me mad. Mad campers are bad campers. Ho ho ho! Look at that. That's a rhyme. Mad campers are bad campers. Like in my other videos, the more you play with the sauce, you know, the more time you spend on it, and well, the colder the rest of the meal will be, but the better it turns out. You can add a little extra water to make sure it comes back the way you want and condense it down, and there's a lot of stuff you can do. So anyway, I'm going to cut out, and once I get the sauce kind of the way I want it, I'll come back, I'll show you what it looks like, and I'll put it together for the final product. Okay, so I got the sauce. Not real happy with how the sauce is coming back. Anyway, we're gonna call her done. So there's the tomato soup. It's very kind of chunky. I really wanted it smoother than that. So as you can see, this is a big meal. She's right to the top. I'm gonna pour the tomato soup over it. Yeah, quite chunky. Not what I was hoping for, thicker and smooth. Instead I got thin and chunky. Yeah, that's a big pot of food. Alright, so I kind of turn that soup in and get it all mixed in. Hamburger on the bottom, pasta, tomatoes. We got a pot of Backcountry goulash. Hamburger mixed in. Oh, yummy. Add a little salt and pepper. There's tomato come up. Tomatoes all kind of break up and go through the meal, give you a real nice tomatoey sort of flavor in the dish. There we go. Yummy, yummy. Time for supper.